What does BCAH stand for?
Bill craves another hole. Is it bruised cock after horseplay? It looks like he's pointing her out to a sniper. Is that what it is? Bill considers assassinating Hillary. I actually saw this. I saw this headline. It is Bill causes anal hemorrhage, wasn't it? Why are porn actors always so worked out? I don't give a fuck what they look like.
Would it be more aspiration if it was just some, like, kind of tubby bloke?
Well, I wouldn't mind if they were being fucked with a cock and a spear, to be honest.
But why has David Cameron been in the news this week?
He fucked someone with a cock and a spear.
What was the bad news about the Olympics this week?
That it's going to be held in Britain, so it's going to be completely rubbish. Personally, I can't wait for the whole thing to be over so that I can go quietly kayaking through Hackney. Have you been to the East End of London? I've been there, and what it really needs is a world-class dressage centre.
It's crying out, because they're just doing dressage in car parks at the moment, just kind of scuffing over homeless people and stuff. It's just not working. It's not the way to see the horses at their finest, I feel.
Although many of the riders are enjoying killing tramps. In London, there's going to be an extra thing where athletes have got to use that extra skill of working out which gunshot is the starting pistol. Ready, on your marks, wait for it. That was a revenge killing in the doorway of a newsagent.
Speaking of phones, what may be streaming from your mobile phone soon?
Pornography, in my case, Dara. The minute this record finishes.
Any other guesses?
Is it a smell? It's a smell, isn't it?
It's a smell, yes.
It's a smell.
The smell of pornography, How that takes me back to just before this record started.
The first subject is unlikely small ads.
Erectile problems. Ha, 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 ha. John, 20, has been missing for 2 years. He was a diabetic and left without taking his medication. Let's face it, he's dead. Would you like no-strings-attached sex? Contact my whore of an ex-wife. Dog available to good home. Free prawn crackers with every delivery.
What new initiatives are the Home Office coming up with?
So is there the thing where they're going to make paedophiles take lie detector tests?
Yes,
How
yes.
does that work? Because apparently, with lie detector tests, you can't ask anyone outright. You know, so if I go, did you do the murder? That doesn't give a correct reading, so you've got to kind of sidle up to it. So with paedophiles, do they go, do you remember that programme, Biker Grove? When that was on, did you ever shag your TV? I think what you've not taken into account, Russell, is that paedophiles have more than one sense. I mean, often they can taste children on the air. It's a boy, and he's been swimming. We're talking now about putting X-ray cameras into lampposts to spot terrorists carrying guns and stuff, which isn't really how terrorists work, is it? Come on, let's congregate round this brightly lit lamppost where we can discuss our evil plans. It's an invasion of civil liberties, though, isn't it? It's a privacy thing, because the government now gets to see us naked. And do I really want policemen knowing that I get an erection every time I feed pigeons?
On transport stories, what has 14-year-old Michael Perham done?
Is he the first 14-year-old boy to cross the Atlantic? Because I thought Ellen MacArthur was a 14-year-old boy. It just goes to show you that Britain is now so full of paedophiles that the only place this boy is safe is bobbing in the middle of the Atlantic. He's safe for as long as his boat can outrun Gary Glitter's submarine.
And what was the bad news for the Greenland ice shelf this week?
It's melting and Santa's drowning. To be honest, I'm glad. He deserves it. A jumper? After all I've done this year, a fucking jumper? Die, Santa, die! We've probably lost the kids' audience here.
Santa's dead.
It's the title of my Fringe show. Just his decapitated head. Ho, ho, fucking ho.
Which other royal has been messing with nature this week?
Princess Anne, she wanked off one of her horses.
Why was Prince Charles causing an environmental storm this week?
Did he wank off one of his horses?
Technically, it's not bestiality because he is married to it.
Yeah.
The real story is the price of amyl nitrate is going through the roof. And the gay community is up in arms. They're up in arms to about this far.
Why have we had a clash between church and state in this country in the last week?
It's the poofs. Poofs causing trouble again.
Unlikely things for a cricket commentator to say.
Is it a 4 or is it a 6? No, that man's arse is definitely a 10. This has been an extraordinary match, but then I'm on mescaline. To recap on the rules, it's rounders with extra gay stuff. England did ask a few tough questions of Australia, like, how do you play cricket? Why are we so fucking shit? The Indians may have pipped us here, but let's not forget, we slaughtered them in their millions. Go nuts with Viagra. What the hell are you doing, Howard?
Because I'm nearly dead, Frankie! Can I not have some fun?
Find a woman, leave the pastries alone!
But what does the DBPB stand for?
Desperate bulimic's pointless boyfriend?
Yeah.
Is it diamond bracelet placates bitch? Is it definite benders pretend bride?
Okay.
Can I do my hard ones just before we do the answer?
Why did you pick your favourite hard one, all right? Have you got it?
Dildo bursts Posh's bladder. I mean, people who are stupid enough to phone them in, I'm surprised that they've got the intelligence to be able to turn the TV on. You know that half of those people must be dialing with their face. It's great life being a racehorse, though, because if you're a champion racehorse, that means you get to spend the last 10 years of your life lazing about in a field shagging women.
No.
Or not women, other horses. It's like being a horse suicide bomber.
No, hang on. That's only if...
I bet you this picture has been received very differently in Korea.
I'm glad you've done that. I'm going to kick the shit out of you.
Are you imagining that we're a much gayer culture? Well, Glasgow is actually the #1 tourist destination in Britain for gay men because they just don't care where those fists hit them, Clive. My granddad used Werther's Original as a euphemism for his penis.
What not to say to a policeman?
I wanted to be a policeman, but then I passed my O-levels. My sister would like you. She loves a man in uniform, and she's a racist. The thing for the cheeky girls is if you spend years saying, touch my bum, finally someone touches your bum and it's Lemba OPEC, you're going to be slightly disappointed there.
Excerpts from DVDs I wouldn't sell.
I'm afraid the only thing you're going to be fighting for some time, Bond, is HIV. Thank you for purchasing Learning the Guitar with Stephen Hawking. All Jedi do gay stuff, Luke. Relax and feel the Force. Here's looking at you, kid, is why I'm in a Cambodian jail. Ah, Frodo, you're hurting me! When I said you should destroy the ring.
The answer is 10%.
What percentage of my income do I spend on buying my stalkers abortions?
What does BBGF stand for?
Is it Blair Bum's Gay Fish? That's his whole problem, is he's holidaying with people like Cliff Richard. Why doesn't he go and stay with Tom Jones, get laid and cheer up a bit? He's only hanging out with Robin Gibb because he's the only person in the world who's got a worse legacy than him. You've got to be careful. You've got to be careful, David, because the big BG is terrifying. He's like 7 foot tall, sings black music in the voice of a castrated white boy, and as each of the other BGs dies, he becomes more powerful.
It is the hanging of Saddam.
They couldn't have made it more undignified. They couldn't have made it more undignified if they'd hung him from a swing ball. You Saddam? No, yes! It was horrendous. It was disgusting. I only gave it 2 stars. Yeah. It was actually John Prescott was the person who came out and was the person to condemn it. But that's pretty bad if the only sort of moral conscience in your nation is a man who has done things to his body that has turned his internal organs into patty. A man who couldn't wear a tie and a belt on the same day or he'd turn into sausages.
It's science.
Scientists have just built the world's biggest ever super collider, and they're doing an experiment to find out what makes up protons. I hope that if the experiment's successful, the whole of our reality will dissolve and a big sign will come up that says, Level 2. I always wondered, you know that woman that had the face transplant? See if she gave you a blowjob, would that technically count as a threesome? You know, science isn't all progress. You know, so you look at 4x4s and they're bad for the environment. They're too big, aren't they? I mean, often now when I'm out dogging, I have to stand on someone's shoulders just to be able to press my balls on the windshield.
The answer is between 10 and 15,000.
Is it according to school dinner, ladies, how many minutes should you give pasta? Is it age 12, I saw a shop assistant's breast in Woolworths. What age would I have to live to before I can get that image out of my mind? Oh, fucking shut up about carousels. The only reason we're talking about this is because Hugh looked at some boring fucking website instead of 6 hours of cock-hungry teens like a normal man. On the train down this week, this is true, there's a Scottish guy trying to chat up a girl on my table, and they're sort of flirting, and she's a medical student, and she's got this book of, like, case histories and stuff, and she goes, oh, could you help me so I can try and diagnose you? And he goes, OK. And he goes and looks at a case history, and you'd choose something light, wouldn't you, if you're flirting?
You open light, yeah.
He closes the book and goes, I would appear to have infected diarrhoea. And that phone number disappeared over a series of descriptions of his bloody turds.
Things you wouldn't hear on a driving test.
When I slap the dashboard with my forehead, I'd like you to crawl out of the wreckage and fetch help. You made one mistake, sir. A Pine air freshener doesn't cover up the smell of a dead hitchhiker. On my signal, I'd like you to mount the pavement and kill my ex-wife.
What the Queen didn't say in her Christmas message.
Edward stuffed the turkey this year. He seemed to be awfully good at it. It's been good to spend some time with my family. And Harry. I've had a few medical problems this year. I'm now so old that my pussy is haunted.
What does RIPS stand for?
Is it Reid imagining Prescott's sex life? Reid's impressive purple scrotum? Reid is paedophile Santa Claus? Reid Ipswich prostitute slayer?
Has John Reid dealt with the problem of overcrowded prisons?
He's released the paedophiles. Could we dress the paedophiles up as Morris dancers so that they have bells on, the kids will know when they're nearby? And, beautifully, real Morris dancers will get beaten up for being paedophiles.
There are 80,000 people in prison, aren't there?
Yes, and there are 80,716 cells.
But there's an obvious solution, like, just top and tail.
What you've not factored in is the levels of prison-forced homosexuality, Russell. It's like sex Tetris trying to fit into a cell these days. There's a double-edged sword here, isn't there, where you'd sort of work out if you were going into prison to try and defend yourself, but working out is only going to make your ass look better. I mean, there's nothing really in the gym that's going to give you an arsehole like a cigar cutter. Or what's wrong with sending them to Australia? I mean, we still own it, and I'd like to see someone keep up an antisocial attitude when surrounded by 3 million happy-go-lucky fuckwits.
Another idea with the whole thing of, you know, the prison overcrowding might be if they put up, like, mirrors in all the cells to create an illusion of space. Well,
and also, there's nothing worse than having some guy shagging you look at himself in the mirror and wink.
What new initiatives are the Home Office coming up with then?
They've got an initiative, haven't they, to do a database of people's shoe prints.
People's shoe prints, yeah.
Which isn't as daft as it sounds, because from a shoe print, they can tell what size you are, they can tell what height you are, what weight you are, and various other stuff about you, which is why, when I'm doing a crime, I always wear high heels and carry a bowling ball.
Subject is the environment.
Ryanair are getting a hard time from the government because they're not doing enough to combat global warming. And you think, well, air travel isn't good for the environment. And surely no one has done more to put people off flying than Ryanair. Nothing. Nothing punctures that James Bond image quite like being sold peanuts by a stewardess who looks like she survived Hiroshima. There's no way that Ryanair are as big a polluter as China, although Ryanair do have a worse record on human rights.
265 million.
How many complaints will there be about the paedophile section of this show? What is the current chart position of Peter Andre's Drum and Bass Christmas? Is it when the machines finally take over, how many humans will die in the first 24 hours in what the machines will later refer to as the Great Adjustment? How much money would the BBC have to pay Tom Cruise if I made the joke I'd like to make about him and John Travolta? Blackpool deserves as big a kicking as possible. It's the one town in Britain where I've got chlamydia from fish and chips.
The creasing with Dilo is the fact that they all pretend to be friends.
Yeah.
That really gets on my nerves.
To be honest, that's what I hate about this show. Yeah. You know, super casinos are terrible because, I mean, people are too vulnerable to cope with this. I mean, people in Britain are addicted to eBay. How are you going to cope with £1 million prize money if you're up till 3 in the morning trying to buy second-hand pyjamas? Your man boobs done is a very sort of decadent kind of stage to get to, though, isn't it? That's why, when I had mine done, I donated them to an African transsexual. I have to be careful here. Hugh has to be careful because this week I discovered... I don't know if you know what slash fiction is, but it's basically gay fiction on the internet where they have people like, you know, Captain Kirk and Spock shagging each other. And there's one of me and Hugh. I don't know why you're doing that, Hugh, because you're the receiver.
I'm just trying to make it easier for you.
And the most offensive part of it is when they describe my pubes as being ginger. This is just... I mean, parents of obese children are just misguided because they're trying to make their children less attractive to paedophiles. But what they're forgetting is that they're making it harder for them to run away.
What a TV chef would never say.
I'm Nigella Lawson, and what I love about presenting this programme is the knowledge that at home, Frankie Boyle has just about ripped his cock off. Tonight on Russian cookery, cyanide, polonium and a crab stuffed with explosives. While you're stuffing the lamb, put your hand over his muzzle so he can't cry for his mother. This dish requires a little extra salt, so I'm going to fuck it. And there we have it. A donut like a Boy Scout's arsehole.
Bad thing to say at the opening of the new Wembley Stadium.
Due to a double booking, England's first match is against Simply Red. Well, isn't this magnificent? Some seats pointing at some fucking grass. And already there's a dog on the pitch as Tessa Jowell opens the stadium. Cost £100 million to demolish Wembley. If you'd had your last game against Scotland, we'd have done it for nothing.
But what does BTAD stand for?
Is it Bioterrorists Annual Disco? Bath time arse disaster? This is in Suffolk. That might well kick off. I mean, you're talking about the one place in the world where bird flu could actually raise life expectancy levels as the locals finally stop marrying seagulls. If turkeys ever take over the world, their science will be devoted to keeping Bernard Matthews alive for 10,000 years while they repeatedly skin and reskin his scrotum.
Sorry, yeah. January, I am getting a road note on my ear going, could we not say that Bernard Matthews takes an enormous amount of glee in the culling of... You know, various things that...
He doesn't take glee in it, he sits on a throne of turkey skulls. Apparently, it doesn't make any difference how much you wash, either, to the amount of bacteria in your body. So I was right never to wash my cock. In fact, I think that the bacteria...
Is that what it is?
I think the bacteria add an extra couple of centimetres. Birds have got an easy deal. Birds have got an easy deal here. They're just getting flu. I mean, cats can get AIDS. That would have made Top Cat a very different show. My food's falling out, DC. Officer Dibble, I've got AIDS. It is a lot more serious. It is a lot more serious than flu. It should be called avian shit your organs out.
That woman last week who gave birth to her, she was 67 years old.
It's not going to be a struggle pushing it out at 67, though, isn't it? That baby's baby's going to have spent the last 3 months bungee jumping.
That's crime.
Yeah, they're going to bring in super Asbos. Now, I mean, Asbos already sounds too cool. Teenagers see it as a badge of honour. They should call them Gaybos or Bender badges. I tell you, the TV show I'd love to see, CSI Glasgow. Well, we've done some preliminary tests and it looks like the intruder definitely did a jobbie on the carpet. We're looking for a young man with a poor diet because the jobbie's got a wham bar with an old 50 pence stuck in it.
The answer is 10 minutes.
Is it if the Pope had a wank, how long would he ejaculate for? Is it? It would take me 20 years to get tired of shagging Natalie Portman. How quickly did I tire of shagging my current girlfriend? Is it how long was the recent run of my off-Broadway musical based on the Challenger space shuttle disaster?
Perhaps the PE teacher could come around and tell you about great historical example of sporting figures and their leadership.
Could there be a worse idea?
Hitler was a
I mean,
great
you're
sympathiser.
sitting there as a history teacher trying to tell people about life in the trenches in the First World War. A guy comes in a tracksuit and starts going on about the life of Graham Souness. The thing is, if they're saying, oh, well, how do we get children to learn? Make them.
Yes.
Make them learn. Combine algebra with a beating. You know? It'd be good if it was Arabic phrases that you could really use when you're travelling in the Middle East. Help, my legs have been blown off. Could you phone an ambulance? That's a very sharp sword. Why are you videotaping this? Where's the nearest marketplace? Good, I'll head in the opposite direction.
I think it's
You
great.
can talk all you like, Parsons. When the Chinese invade, you'll be crucified upside down with a roast duck stuck up your arse.
Unlikely things to hear on Comic Relief.
Remember, tonight isn't all about comedy. Here's Ben Elton. Why don't they just eat the flies? If we remove all these villagers' cataracts, one day they might be able to make our shoes. And remember, 20% of everything you give goes directly to a grinning warlord wearing a necklace of human finger bones.
The worst thing your new neighbour could say.
What day do the bins go out round here? My wife's body's starting to stink. Stay away from my daughter. She gave me crabs. My wife and I are nudists and have been for the past 70 years. I fantasise about tricking your wife into making love to me by wearing your skin.